Hello, guys. Let's dive into 7 hilarious moments that actually happened. Once upon a time in 1896, the British Empire was sipping tea and minding its business when Zanzibar got a new sultan who wasn't exactly their cup of tea. The Brits told the new guy, "Sorry, old chap, you're not approved. Step down or we'll be very upset." The new sultan replied, "Number." So, at exactly 9:02 a.m. on the 27th of August, 1896, the Royal Navy said, "Fine, have it your way," and started bombing the palace. They were super efficient. By 9:40 a.m., the Sultan had fled through the back door, his guards surrendered, and the war was over. Duration? 38 minutes. That's shorter than a pizza delivery in traffic. Casualties? Around 500 on Zanzibar's side. British side, 1 sailor sprained his back. The British then installed their preferred sultan, made a note in the diary, and probably went back to tea. And that's how the shortest war in history went down more of a loud British no than an actual war. It was a sunny day in 1807. Napoleon Bonaparte, the mighty conqueror of Europe, decided to take a break from wars and enjoy a little rabbit hunting party with his generals. Just some light shooting to unwind. So he ordered his men to prepare a grand hunt. And boy, did they prepare. They gathered hundreds, maybe even thousands of rabbits. Except plot twist, they didn't catch wild rabbits. They bought tame, cuddly, chubby pet bunnies from farms. The moment Napoleon arrived, and the cages were opened, the rabbits didn't run away. They ran toward him. Dozens, hundreds furry little balls of cuteness charging like Napoleon's own cavalry. They thought it was feeding time, not fleeing time. Napoleon tried shooing them. The bunnies kept coming. He ran. They chased him. Generals swung their hats. Bunnies attacked their boots. Napoleon, Emperor of France, defeater of nations, was forced to retreat to his carriage under full-scale bunny assault. It was the softest, most adorable military disaster in history. And from that day forward, one thing was clear. Napoleon could handle armies, but he could not handle bunnies. Let's rewind to the 4th of July, 1850. The U.S. was celebrating Independence Day. Fireworks, flags, full-on patriotism. And President Zachary Taylor was loving it. He was hot, sweaty, and in the mood to party, with snacks. So he helped himself to a mountain of treats. Cold milk, iced watermelons, and lots of cherries. Possibly also a few suspiciously rich cookies. What could go wrong? Well, everything. Within hours, the president was sick as a dog. Severe stomach cramps, fever, chaos. Doctors rushed in with cutting-edge 1850s medicine, which mostly meant guessing and hoping. They tried bleeding, purging, and more bleeding. Yes, that was real. It didn't help. 5 days later, Zachary Taylor died. Official cause? Acute gastroenteritis. Unofficial cause? He ate like it was the Last Supper. Some say it was poison. Others say it was just a deadly combo of cherries plus warm milk plus 1800s hygiene. Either way, the lesson is clear. Even presidents can fall to fruit and dairy. So picture this. It's 1828. In Mexico City, things are chaotic. Revolutions, riots, and apparently angry mobs smashing up bakeries. One unlucky French pastry chef-iess, a guy who just wanted to make eclairs and go home, had his shop looted by Mexican officers and rebels. His cakes? Gone. His tarts? Smashed. His dignity? Baked. He demanded compensation from the Mexican government. They said, "Non, monsieur, Well, technically they said no in Spanish. So what did he do? He went straight to the King of France, Charles X, and said something like, "Sire, I demand justice for my poor croissants." And the king? He didn't laugh. He said, "Justice shall be served with cannons." And boom! In 1838, France sent warships to blockade Mexico and bomb their ports. Over one French bakery. It lasted a few months, until Mexico agreed to pay 600,000 pesos for the bakery damages. That's one expensive eclair. And voila, that's how the pastry war happened. A war triggered not by gold, land, or power, but by cake. It's 1932. Australia's farmers have a problem. No, not the heat, not the drought. Giant, angry emus, thousands of them. These overgrown, flightless feather rockets were stomping through wheat fields like they owned the place. So what did the Australian government do? Call in pest control? Nope. They sent the military, with machine guns. Enter Major G.P.W. Meredith, leading soldiers versus emus. And guess what? The emus won. The birds ran too fast. They zigzagged like Olympic sprinters. They took bullets and kept running like nothing happened. At one point, the gun jammed, and the emus just casually walked off, probably laughing in bird language. They even split into strategic bird squads, flanking the soldiers. It was like a feathery guerrilla war. After several weeks, hundreds of rounds fired, and maybe a dozen emus down, the army gave up. Yes, Australia lost a war to birds that can't even fly. The emus kept the land. The farmers kept the trauma. And the army? Probably kept it quiet in their resumes. In the Middle Ages, Europe had some creative ideas about justice. You know, burning witches, trial by fire, and sometimes putting animals on trial. Yes, actual trials, with lawyers, for animals. And the most famous case? A pig. In France, 1386, a pig was accused of murder. Apparently, it had mauled a child, most likely by accident, but who needs facts? So, what did the villagers do? Call animal control? Nope. They arrested the pig, put it in a real jail, gave it a public trial, and even assigned a lawyer to defend it. The trial went like this. Judge: did the pig knowingly commit murder? Lawyer: Your Honor, my client oinks in innocence. Pig: oinks dramatically. Witnesses gave emotional testimony. The pig? Saturday there like, I just wanted some snacks, man. In the end, the court found the pig guilty of murder and sentenced it to death by hanging, just like a human criminal. And so it was. They hung the pig in public to send a message. Crime doesn't pay, even if you have hooves and a curly tail. Ah, yes, the Middle Ages, when pigs had lawyers, and people didn't have common sense. Let's rewind to the 4th of July, 1850. The U.S. was celebrating Independence Day. Fireworks, flags, full-on patriotism. And President Zachary Taylor was loving it. He was hot, sweaty, and in the mood to party with snacks. So he helped himself to a mountain of treats. Cold milk, iced watermelons, and lots of cherries. Possibly also a few suspiciously rich cookies. What could go wrong? Well, everything. Within hours, the president was sick as a dog. Severe stomach cramps, fever, chaos. Doctors rushed in with cutting-edge 1850s medicine, which mostly meant guessing and hoping. They tried bleeding, purging, and more bleeding. Yes, that was real. It didn't help. 5 days later, Zachary Taylor died. Official cause? Acute gastroenteritis. Unofficial cause? He ate like it was the Last Supper. Some say it was poison. Others say it was just a deadly combo of cherries plus warm milk plus 1800s hygiene. Either way, the lesson is clear. Even presidents can fall to fruit and dairy on a hot day.
Today, I will expose the 7 most terrifying drugs ever sold in the world, from naive scams to truly deadly medical inventions.
Once upon a time, in the late 19th century, before modern science truly blossomed, people were incredibly susceptible to pie-in-the-sky advertisements. That's when a charlatan named Kamel emerged. At a bustling fair in 1883, Kamel peddled his Kamel's anti-rheumatic ring. He boldly claimed this ring, made from a mysterious metal, actually just cheap brass, had miraculous powers. He said it would quicken blood circulation and dissolve harmful acid crystals, the root of all ailments, from joint pain to baldness. Kamel even audaciously claimed European royalty used these rings. The common folk, suffering from various maladies, were easily swayed by his sweet words. They flocked to his booth, forming long queues. Soon, Kamel's rings were taking America by storm and sweeping across Europe. Many who wore them declared they felt much better or less pain. Some even excitedly reported hair regrowth. Of course, this was simply the extraordinary power of the placebo effect. For nearly 3 decades, 1,883, 1,910, this magic ring helped Kamel amass a colossal fortune, until doubts began to creep in and people finally realized the harsh truth. The ring had no magic. It was just an ordinary piece of jewelry. Truly, a valuable lesson learned about blind faith in bygone eras. Snake oil. Back in the mid-1800s in America, snake oil emerged as a miracle cure. Initially, real Chinese snake oil, made from water snake fat, did offer pain relief. However, the real story begins with Clark Stanley, a man billed as the Rattlesnake King, but who was, in truth, a notorious quack. In 1893, at the Chicago World's Fair, Stanley put on a memorable show. He butchered a rattlesnake on the spot, rendering its fat into Stanley's snake oil. He loudly proclaimed it a cure-all for everything from toothaches to baldness. In truth, Stanley's snake oil had nothing to do with rattlesnakes. It was mostly mineral oil, beef fat, and cayenne pepper for a warming sensation. Despite its lack of medical efficacy, thanks to Stanley's incredible salesmanship, snake oil sold like hotcakes. It wasn't until 1906, with the U.S. Pure Food and Drug Act, that scams like snake oil were exposed. Scientists analyzed Stanley's snake oil and concluded it contained no actual snake essence. Stanley was fined a mere $20. Seems to have little to do with what he tricks people into doing. And so, snake oil became a common term for any worthless product or remedy, relying solely on exaggerated advertising to trick the public. It's truly astonishing that such remedies were ever widely sold. This story reminds us of the dangers of blindly trusting empty promises. Mummy powder. Back in the day, when scientific knowledge was limited and superstitions were rampant, a truly peculiar medicine was widely sold in Europe, mummy powder, also known as mumia. So, what exactly was this mummy powder that was so hot? Well, it was simply powdered ancient Egyptian mummies. People believed that because pharaohs were mummified for eternal life, ingesting this powder would allow them to absorb some of their power and longevity. Sounds somewhat logical for the time, doesn't it? As a result, a lucrative industry of excavating and trading mummies emerged. Merchants didn't hesitate to plunder ancient tombs and even stole mummies from museums. These mummies would then be brought back to Europe, ground into a fine powder and sold as powder or tablets. People believed that mummy powder could cure a wide range of ailments, from headaches and coughs to epilepsy and the plague. The price of mummy powder wasn't cheap. It was considered a rare and precious medicine. It wasn't until the development of modern medicine that people realized mummy powder had absolutely no medicinal properties whatsoever. It was simply the remains of dead people, sometimes carrying dangerous bacteria. Yet, for centuries, people had been happily and unknowingly ingesting ground-up corpses. Truly a laughing while crying tale of ignorance and bizarre historical medical practices. Dr. Sylvester Andrel Kilmer, around the 1870s in New York, a physician named Dr. Sylvester Andrel Kilmer introduced a tonic with a very natural-sounding name, Dr. Kilmer's Swamproot Kidney, Liver and Bladder Remedy. The bottles even famously had an embossed image of a kidney on the glass to visualize where the medicine would work. Kilmer boldly declared this elixir was an excellent diuretic, helping kidneys eliminate waste. But Swamproot's biggest secret wasn't in its mystical herbs and roots. The true active ingredient, the thing that really made patients feel better, was about 10 to 12% alcohol. Yes, you heard that right, roughly equivalent to a light glass of wine. No wonder everyone felt perked up after a dose. Later, Dr. Kilmer's marketing genius nephew, Willis Sharp Kilmer, took Swamproot to a new level. He not only advertised aggressively, but also invented the trick of offering free urine analyses to diagnose ailments. And then, of course, the miraculous solution? A bottle of Swamproot. When asked what Swamproot was good for, Willis Sharp Kilmer responded with delightful honesty. About $1 million a year. It wasn't until 1906, with the Pure Food and Drug Act, that Swamproot's more outrageous claims were toned down. But despite the harsh reality, this miracle cure was still sold until as late as 1969. What a hilarious lesson in how a little alcohol and a lot of marketing savvy can cure a manufacturer's financial woes. Asthma cigarette. In the early 19th century, when medicine was still fumbling in the dark, asthma cigarettes emerged. While no single inventor is credited, those who manufactured and promoted these cigarettes created quite a bizarre sensation. These cigarettes were widely advertised as an effective treatment for respiratory ailments, especially asthma. Instead of taking medicine or using inhalers, patients were encouraged to smoke cigarettes. Many believed that inhaling medicated smoke would help open airways and reduce bronchial spasms. So, what was the secret ingredient in these cigarettes? They contained poisonous plants like jimsonweed, Datura stramonium, and thorn apple, Datura ferox. Yes, plants with hallucinogenic and many dangerous side effects. People believed the compounds in these plants had bronchodilating effects, but they conveniently overlooked the harm of inhaling toxic smoke directly into the lungs. And so, asthma sufferers would sit there, puffing away on their medicinal cigarettes. Perhaps they did feel a bit easier to breathe. But that could have been due to vasodilating side effects or simply mild poisoning. Asthma cigarettes were widely sold until the 1950s, when medical science advanced and recognized the deadly dangers of smoking. This is a vivid testament to the humor and tragedy of ignorant medical practices throughout history. Arsenic cosmetics. Once upon a time, in an era where incredibly pale, even ghostly, skin was considered the epitome of beauty and refinement, because it showed you didn't have to toil under the sun, a truly horrifying beauty secret emerged. Arsenic cosmetics. Yes, that's arsenic, the notorious poison often used to send rivals to the great beyond. Back then, ladies eager for skin as white as printer paper, or even whiter to flaunt their status, turned to products like arsenic soap or arsenic complexion wafers. You heard that right. Wafers meant for eating. People believed arsenic would magically even out skin tone, brighten the complexion, and even fade freckles and blemishes.
Just imagine a noblewoman delicately munching on an arsenic wafer in the morning for that dewy glow. Quite a chilling thought. Of course, the consequences were anything but dewy. Arsenic is a cumulative poison, meaning the more you used it, the more it built up in your body, slowly causing harm. Instead of rosy white skin, many might end up with issues like hair loss, brittle nails, stomach pains, and if used long enough, well, see you on the other side. Beauty certainly has a price, but this price was a bit exorbitant. Yet, despite the obvious harms, which perhaps weren't fully understood at the time, arsenic products sold quite well. Why? Because beauty trumped all. And back then, there were no product safety regulations like today. It wasn't until scientific advancements revealed the true dangers of arsenic that these deadly beauty secrets gradually vanished from the market. This is truly a humorous and somewhat dark testament to how crazy humans can get in the pursuit of beauty.
Radium. In the early 20th century, after Marie Curie's discovery of radium, a radioactivity craze swept the world. People believed the mysterious energy from radioactive elements held the key to eternal health and rejuvenation. Thus, a plethora of miracle products emerged, promising to cure everything with radiation. The brightest star among them was radium water, popular from 1924 to 1930. This was just regular water, infused with a bit of radium. Manufacturers aggressively advertised that drinking this water would cure everything from arthritis and indigestion to impotence and aging. There was even a wealthy gentleman named Eben Byers, so enamored with this water that he drank bottles of it daily, believing it made him vigorous. But it wasn't just drinks. The market was flooded with other radioactive products. Want sparkling white teeth? There was radioactive toothpaste. Want flawless skin? There were radioactive face creams and lipsticks. There were even radioactive suppositories and radium tablets advertised for restoring health. Just imagine people beaming with glowing teeth and radiant faces thanks to radiation. Quite a problem. Simultaneously comical and terrifying vision. The consequences? Of course, they were anything but radiant. Radium is an extremely toxic radioactive substance, accumulating in bones and tissues, causing cancer, bone decay, and a host of other dreadful diseases. Eben Byers, the radium water addict, eventually died a horrifying death with his jaw and bones completely disintegrated. Think courtrooms are always serious? Think again, here are 7 hilariously real lawsuits. It was 1977 in New York. A young, starry-eyed couple, let's call them Bob and Linda, were looking for their first home together. They found a beautiful old Victorian house. Big rooms, fireplace, backyard, and best of all, rent so cheap it felt like a steal. And maybe it was. From the dead. The first night, Bob heard footsteps upstairs, even though no one was there. Linda swore she saw the curtains move, even though the windows were shut tight. Lights flickered, faucets turned on by themselves. And the fridge? It swung open at midnight, like it wanted to feed them, or eat them. Then came the cherry on top. Every night, at 3:03 a.m., the bed started shaking like it was possessed by a caffeine-crazed fitness instructor. At first, Bob blamed Linda. Linda blamed Bob. Then they both blamed ghosts. Terrified, they sued the landlord, claiming, "You didn't tell us the house was haunted." At first, the court chuckled. But things got real when Bob's lawyer found a television interview from years earlier, where the landlord proudly said, "Yes, my house is haunted. It's famous for that." Well, well, well. The judge ruled, if you go on television bragging about your ghost roommates, you'd better put it in the lease. And just like that, the case became a legal precedent in New York. Since then, landlords in the state have a fun little obligation. If your property has a reputation for being haunted, you must disclose it. Moral of the story? When you find a cheap house, maybe ask, how many bedrooms? How many bathrooms? And how many ghosts live here? Let's go back to 1960s England. Meet Mr. George, a quiet, well-mannered gentleman living in a modest council house. One day, as part of a government housing upgrade, his bathroom got fitted with a brand new, sleek, modern toilet. White porcelain, smooth curves, flushed like a dream. But that dream quickly turned paranormal. Soon after installation, George claimed his life changed. He told the court, "I can't sleep. I'm irritable. I'm constantly constipated, and I believe the toilet is haunted." Yes, you heard that right. He insisted that every time he sat down, he heard moaning sounds not from himself, but from inside the toilet. According to George, a spirit was trapped in the plumbing, and it was cursing his intestines. So what did George do? He sued the local council, demanding compensation for emotional distress and what he called supernatural indigestion. The court was baffled. Sanitation experts were called. The verdict? The toilet was perfectly normal. The noises? Just old pipes and echo from the flush. And George's health issues? The doctor's diagnosis. Sir, you're constipated because you eat too much Stilton cheese and drink no water. George lost the case, but the toilet became a legend and earned the nickname, the Ghost Loo, the first, and possibly only, toilet to be taken to court for haunting someone's bowels. This story took place in China, sometime in the late 1990s. A man, let's call him Mr. Zhang, married a beautiful woman named Miss Li. Everything was great. They were in love, got married, and soon had a child. Then came the shock. The baby was, well, not what Mr. Zhang expected. Let's put it nicely. He looked like he had skipped the genetic lottery entirely. At first, Zhang tried to convince himself. Maybe it's just my side of the family, or some old gene resurfacing. But as time went on, nothing about the baby looked like either parent. So Zhang did what any confused man would do. He ran a DNA test. Not to check paternity, but to investigate what the heck happened to the looks. And then plot twist. The results revealed that Miss Li had undergone extensive plastic surgery before marriage. We're talking nose job, chin contour, eye lift, cheekbone shaving, the full upgrade. Her old photos? Unrecognizable. Feeling genetically deceived, Zhang sued his wife. His argument? I married a beauty, but she tricked me. Now our child looks nothing like what I signed up for. And the court sided with him. Miss Li was ordered to pay around 100,000 yuan tilde, $14,000, for emotional damages from deceptive beauty. The case became one of the strangest divorce lawsuits in Chinese legal history, and a cautionary tale that went viral. Don't underestimate the power of DNA, and maybe go easy on the filters before marriage. In 1985, California, a man named Frank filed a lawsuit against his neighbor, claiming he was viciously attacked by her dog. He said the beast lunged at him, bit his leg, and knocked him to the ground. Drama levels: 100. The neighbor, sweet old Martha, calmly replied, "Sir, Max wouldn't hurt a fly. He barks a bit, but biting? Never." And guess what? The judge summoned the dog to court. Yes, Max. A fluffy golden retriever walked into the courtroom with a red bow on his collar like he owned the place. The prosecutor demanded Max be restrained. But when the judge called his name, Max gently trotted over, wagged his tail, sat down politely, and looked as innocent as a teddy bear. As the witness testified, Max sat quietly. He occasionally tilted his head like he was analyzing legal arguments, and at one point walked over to the judge and gave a friendly lick on the hand. The courtroom burst out laughing. The judge slammed his gavel and said, "If this is a dangerous animal, then I must be Batman." The court ruled in Max's favor. Frank's case was dismissed for lack of evidence. The judge added, "Next time you sue a dog, make sure you have proof, not just drama." Max walked out a hero, probably went home and had a whole bag of treats. And Martha proudly said, "I told you, he knows the law better than I do." In 1954, in the heart of Italy, land of Michelangelo, marble, and museums, a legal drama unfolded that could only be described as delightfully absurd. A traditional elderly couple was touring a prestigious museum in Florence. Everything was going fine until the wife suddenly came face to face with a full-on, classically nude Greek statue. She gasped, clutched her pearls, turned red with shock, turned purple with rage, and turned to her husband. How dare they display such indecency in public? Days later, the husband, deeply offended, or maybe just trying to calm his wife down, sued the museum. The claim? The statue insulted their family's honor and gave his wife sleepless nights and a racing heart. The court was confused, amused, then slightly concerned. The museum's lawyer replied, "Your Honor, this is a 2000-year-old sculpture, not a Victoria's Secret ad." To be fair, the judge wanted to be thorough, so he invited both parties on a tour of the museum, accompanied by art historians. After the tour, the judge looked at the statue, then at the couple, and gave the most Italian verdict ever. If classical art is a crime, then all of Italy has been guilty since Julius Caesar. The lawsuit was dismissed. And the couple? They were politely directed to the nude painting gallery downstairs, for educational purposes. It was a blistering summer day in Australia, 1982, the kind of heat where you could fry an egg on the sidewalk without even trying. A man, let's call him Steve, walked into a supermarket, drenched in sweat, looking like a popsicle in the microwave. He marched straight to the refrigerated section, grabbed a stick of butter, peeled off the wrapper, and rubbed it on his bald head. Yes, butter, on the head. Security was stunned. Maybe he was having a heat stroke? When asked what he was doing, Steve confidently replied, "It's hot, mate. I just needed some natural sunscreen, and it's refreshing." Long story short, Steve was arrested for stealing a $2 stick of butter. At the trial, Steve claimed he wasn't stealing, he was simply borrowing the butter to rescue his scalp from combustion. His lawyer added with a straight face, "My client didn't steal, he applied butter with love." The courtroom fell silent. The judge paused, probably trying not to laugh. Then came the verdict. Creative, yes. Legal, no. Butter is not a cooling gel, nor is it scalp medicine. Steve was fined but walked away a local legend, forever known as Butterhead Steve, the man who kept his cool with dairy. In 1991, a lonely man named Richard Overton sat on his couch in America, sipping a cold beer and watching television. Then it happened. A beer commercial came on. A guy popped open a can of beer, and boom, bikini models appeared. Music blasted. Everyone was partying. Life was amazing. Richard blinked. So that's the secret? All this time, and I just needed beer? Motivated, Richard made it his mission. He bought beer. Lots of it. He drank daily. He waited. But no girls came. Only a beer belly. Fed up, Richard did the only logical thing. He sued the beer company, demanding $10,000 in damages for false advertising. His claim? The commercial promised women, "I drank the beer. The women never came." At first, the court thought it was a prank. But Richard filed an official complaint, complete with citations and heartfelt disappointment. After careful review and a few suppressed chuckles, the judge ruled, advertising is exaggerated for entertainment. No reasonable person believes beer summons girlfriends. Case dismissed. No money. No girls. Just one new nickname. Richard the Romantic, the man who believed in beer magic. What if I told you a war started over a pastry? Welcome to the weirdest pages in human history. Back in the 18th century, Britain and Spain weren't exactly besties. In the Caribbean seas, they fought over ships, sugar, spice, and, apparently, ears. In 1731, a British merchant ship called Rebecca was stopped by Spanish coast guards. The Spanish commander, Julio León Fandiño, boarded the ship, shouted a few angry Spanish words, and accused the Brits of smuggling. What happened next? He walked up to the British captain, Robert Jenkins, and sliced off his ear. Yes, cut it clean off. But wait, it gets better. He placed the ear in a jar of rum, handed it back to Jenkins, and said, "Take this to your king, and tell him stay out of our waters." Jenkins went home to Britain earless, angry, and holding a jar of ear and booze. And guess what? Nobody cared. Not for 7 years. Then, in 1738, the British Parliament was looking for an excuse to start a war with Spain, colonial tension and all that. And boom, in walks Jenkins, dramatically holding up the jar, yelling, "Here is my ear! Spain must pay!" Parliament went wild. Newspapers called him the heroic earless merchant. And, in 1739, Britain officially declared war on Spain. What did they call it? The War of Jenkins' Ear. Yep, a 9-year war. Dozens of ships sunk. Thousands of lives lost. All because of one slightly pickled ear in a jar. Let's travel back to ancient Rome around the 1st century AD and meet one of history's most famously unhinged emperors. Caligula, a man who ruled for just 4 years, but made every year count in chaos. Now, Caligula had a best friend. Not a general, not a noble. Nope, a horse. His name? Incitatus. This was no ordinary horse. He had his own marble stall, an ivory manger, silk blankets, and he sipped fine wine from crystal goblets. Classy, right? But wait, it gets weirder. One fine morning, Caligula declared, "Incitatus shall be consul of Rome." Yes, he wanted to appoint a horse to one of the highest political offices in the Roman Empire. The Senate? Stunned. The people? Confused. Incitatus? Just chewing hay like a true philosopher. Some historians say this was Caligula's twisted way of mocking the government, like saying, "Even a horse could do a better job than these fools." Others think he genuinely believed the horse deserved it. Either way, Incitatus never officially held office, but the story stuck. To this day, Caligula's horse remains the most famous, almost politician in history. Proof that power corrupts, and sometimes neighs. Would you believe that a pastry shop getting wrecked started an actual war between two nations? In 1832, a French pastry chef named Monsieur Remontel was living in Mexico City. One day, some rowdy Mexican soldiers trashed his bakery, smashed the shelves, ruined the pastries, stomped the eclairs. His poor cream puffs were massacred. Naturally, Remontel was furious. He asked the Mexican government for 600 pesos in damages. That's not much, maybe the price of a royal wedding cake. But Mexico shrugged it off. No apology, no cash, no cake. So Remontel did what any rational man would do. He wrote to the King of France, demanding justice, and maybe a few new ovens. King Louis Philippe, already itching to flex in Latin America, saw the perfect excuse. In 1838, France sent warships and troops to blockade the Mexican port of Veracruz. Yes, they started a war over a pastry shop. Mexico resisted. Battles broke out. A Mexican general even lost a leg in the fight. Eventually, Mexico gave in and paid compensation for a bakery that had been smashed 6 years earlier. The whole incident became known as the Pastry War. And the moral of the story? Never mess with a French baker, especially if he's got friends in the Navy. In the early 1900s, there was an American photographer named George R. Lawrence. Unlike other photographers, George didn't do normal. No ladders, no towers, no hills. George said, "Let's use kites." Yes, giant ones. He built a system of 9 massive kites tied together with steel cables to lift a 25-kilogram camera, basically a flying fridge with a lens. His goal? To capture an aerial photo of San Francisco after the 1906 earthquake. Problem is, officials didn't want photographers near the area too dangerous, too chaotic. But George was like, rules? Meh. So he went rogue. He flew his kite system out in an empty field, attached the camera, triggered it remotely, and boom! He captured one of the most iconic photos of that century. But then, the wind turned. The kites went nuts. The camera plummeted straight into a barn, landed in a cow pen, and scared the cow so bad it ran through a fence. George yelled, "Save the camera! The cow will recover!" Luckily, the film was intact. The photo was crystal clear. It sold everywhere. And George became a legend, the first man to take an aerial war-style photo using nothing but kites and guts. Ever heard of a country where it's a legal right to be lazy on Tuesdays? Sounds like a joke, but it's real. In 1997, in Vilnius, the capital of Lithuania, a quirky little neighborhood called Užupis, full of artists, poets, musicians, and beautifully eccentric folks, decided, why don't we just start our own country? So they did. The Republic of Užupis was born. They declared independence. They wrote a constitution, picked a flag, sang a national anthem, held parliament meetings in a bar, and appointed a self-declared president. Their constitution is the stuff of legend. Here are some actual clauses. Everyone has the right to be lazy. A dog has the right to be a dog. Everyone has the right to die, but it's not mandatory. Everyone has the right to wash in the national bathtub. And yes, they do have a national bathtub, a public bathroom turned into a sort of sacred site. Their Independence Day? April, the 1st of April Fool's Day, of course. To enter Užupis, just cross a small bridge where you'll be greeted by a trumpet-blowing angel statue. And once you're in, feel free to relax, be weird, and maybe pet a philosophical cat. Today, Užupis is a legit tourist attraction and one of the most light-hearted micronations in the world. It proves that with enough creativity, passion, and humor, you really can start your own country. Back in 2001, the internet was recovering from a digital apocalypse. The Code Red virus had swept through Windows systems like a caffeinated gremlin, crashing servers, slowing networks, and driving IT guys to live on pizza and sheer panic. Eventually, Code Red was eradicated. And while most people sighed in relief, a group of IT students at the University of Utah had a better idea. Throw a funeral for the virus. Yes, a full-on ceremony for a piece of malicious code. They put the virus file, harmless by now, on a USB stick, placed it in a clear plastic coffin, wrapped it in black cloth, added fake flowers, and labeled it. Rip Code Red, 2001, 2001, gone but not forgotten. The event included sad music from a Bluetooth speaker, a tech priest in a black hoodie delivering a eulogy. Dear virus, you made our lives miserable, but today we forgive you. The highlight? A student stood up and read a eulogy in binary. Oh, 1,010,011. Oh, 1,100,001.
Oh, 1,111,001. Another guy whispered, "It means goodbye, old enemy." Finally, the USB was buried under a tree on campus. A little wooden sign marked the grave. "Here lies Code Red. May no backup revive it." And that's how a deadly virus got the most ridiculous and legendary send-off in tech history. Back in the 1960s, when NASA was pushing the limits of space exploration, they ran a lot of tests. One of the most intense was the vacuum chamber test, a giant sealed room simulating outer space by removing all air pressure. One technician, let's call him Jim, was scheduled to enter the chamber for a routine pressure test. Everyone was busy adjusting controls, taking notes, but no one noticed one tiny detail. Jim forgot to wear his spacesuit. Yes, he walked into the vacuum chamber in his underwear. The door sealed. Pressure dropped. 15 seconds in, Jim passed out. His saliva started boiling, literally because, in a vacuum, liquids in the body boil at body temperature. Fortunately, a sharp-eyed engineer spotted something was wrong and restored pressure immediately. Jim woke up, dazed, and said the most iconic line, "I felt my tongue starting to boil." From that day forward, NASA added a new line to their test checklist. Is the subject wearing a spacesuit? Jim became a legend in NASA lore, forever known as Spaceboy in Underpants. Think these are just jokes? Nope, every one of these 7 stories actually happened. Get ready to laugh for real. This real story happened in Poland. Meet our genius criminal, a man with ambition, poor planning, and excellent resume formatting. He needed money, fast. But also, he wanted a stable job. So he thought, why not apply for a job at a bank? And if that doesn't work, I'll rob it. He found a nearby bank. Looked decent, not too much security. Bonus? They were hiring. So he submitted his job application with full name, ID number, home address, phone number, smiling headshot like he's applying for a job at IKEA. The bank never called. 2 weeks later, he returned, but this time, not in a suit. He stormed in wearing a mask, waved a toy gun, and yelled, "Give me the money? I'm not kidding." He got a few €100 and ran off. But here's the twist. The bank staff recognized him from his job application. When police arrived, they literally opened their email inbox and said, "Oh yeah, here's the guy. He even included references." They arrested him within 3 hours at home, in pajamas. He was shocked. "Wait, how did you find me?" The officer replied, "Well, sir, you basically gave us your CV before committing the crime." And that's how he became locally famous as the most honest criminal in Poland. This story takes place in the United States, the land of fried chicken and lawsuits that sound like sitcom plots. One fine day, a man, let's call him Dave, walked into a popular fried chicken joint and ordered the 10-piece spicy wing combo. He took it home, opened the box, and paused. He counted. 1, 2, 3. Only 9 wings. One was MIA, missing in appetite. Now, most people might call the restaurant, but not Dave. Dave decided to sue the chicken company. And he didn't sue for a replacement wing. No. He sued for $5 million, citing consumer deception, emotional distress, and loss of chicken trust. In his complaint, he stated, "I didn't get what I paid for. The missing wing caused me real mental harm. The combo said 10 pieces. I got 9. That's betrayal." The internet went wild. Some people called him a fried chicken freedom fighter. Others said, "Bro just got hangry and grabbed a lawyer."
The court ultimately dismissed the case, ruling, "While unfortunate, one missing wing does not equal $5 million in damages." But to save face and avoid a PR disaster, the chicken company offered Dave a free box of wings every week for a year. So, no, he never got his 10th wing back. But he did get 520 replacement wings and possibly the most expensive chicken nugget drama in history. It was a sunny day in Florida, 2013, when 911 dispatchers got a surprising call not about a fire, not a robbery, but from a 9-year-old boy named Jordan who said, "Hello, officer. My dog just ate my math homework." Yes, this was a real emergency. Jordan, a 3rd grader, had just finished his homework neatly done, ready to go when his lovable golden retriever Max decided it looked tasty. "I heard chewing," Jordan said. "I turned around and Max was halfway through my long division." Now, Jordan had used the "dog ate my homework" excuse before, but this time it really happened, and no one would believe him. So he did what any responsible student would do. He called 911 for legal backup. When officers arrived, they found Jordan serious as a judge, pointing at shredded notebook pages and a very sleepy dog. One officer laughed and wrote an official note. "Confirmed. Homework eaten by canine. Situation beyond child's control." The next day, Jordan showed the note to his teacher, who laughed and let him redo the assignment. Jordan became a classroom legend, and Max earned the title Florida's Most Wanted Homework Eater. In 2019, at a major Canadian airport, a ground crew technician, let's call him Tom, was assigned to inspect the cargo hold of a flight headed to Alaska. Now, Tom was known among coworkers for one thing: legendary nap skills. And that day was cold, very cold. Inside the cargo hold was warm and quiet. After finishing his inspection, Tom had 20 minutes before takeoff, so he thought, no harm in a quick nap? Just 15 minutes on these comfy cardboard boxes. He didn't tell anyone. No radio message, no checkout, just dozed off. Soon, the cargo door closed. The plane taxied. The jet engines fired. And Tom was flying. About an hour into the flight, the vibrations and roaring woke him up. He sat up in a panic. "Wait, I'm in the air? Where am I going?" He pounded the walls, yelled, but no one could hear him from the sealed cargo hold. When the plane landed in Alaska, Tom calmly stepped out like a stowaway in a hoodie and greeted a very confused ground crew. Security detained him. Customs agents interrogated him. "Why are you in the cargo hold, sir?" "I swear I was just napping." "With no passport?" "Because I wasn't supposed to leave the country." After verifying his ID and checking with Canadian authorities, Tom was released and given a proper seat on a return flight. Back at work, his nickname became official, the Napstronaut. He didn't just sleep on the job, he crossed international borders doing it. In Japan, land of anime, vending machines for everything, and high-level nerd romance, there was a programmer named Kenta. He loved 3 things: code, games, and his girlfriend, Yui. Yui wasn't just any girlfriend, she was his co-op partner for life, both in games and in real life. They met inside an online puzzle RPG called Crystal Hearts, and their relationship literally began with, "Nice heel? Wanna join my guild?" 2 years of raiding dungeons and unlocking achievements later, Kenta knew it was time to propose. But being a programmer, a nerd, and a hopeless romantic, he wanted something truly game-changing. So he built a custom game from scratch called Crystal Proposal. Each level was based on a real memory. Level 1, a pixelated version of the net cafe where they had their first date. Level 2, a castle map that matched the game where they met. Level 3, a boss fight against fear of rejection. The boss had only 1 horsepower. He stored the game on a custom-made hard drive shaped like an in-game treasure chest. Inside it, a real engagement ring engraved with their names and their in-game guild emblem. He installed the game on her PC with a launch icon titled, "Only for Yui." She played through it, puzzled, laughing, getting emotional, and when she reached the final door, a message appeared. "This is your final quest. Will you marry me?" Press Y to accept. Press N to refight the boss. She hit Y, wiping tears from her eyes. The game played 8-bit wedding music. Kenta opened the chest-shaped hard drive and pulled out the real ring. He stood up, forgot to kneel, held her hand, and said, "You're the only player, too, I'll ever need." She said yes. After the wedding, they shared the game online with a twist. If anyone chooses N at the end, the boss respawns and says, "Wow, you really made him code all this just to say no?" It was 2020, the golden age of Zoom classes, online chaos, and accidental viral moments. Miss Mary, a sweet but slightly scatterbrained elementary school teacher, was wrapping up a math class on subtraction with her second graders. She smiled, waved, and said, "Okay, class, great job today. See you tomorrow." She muted her mic. But guess what? Her camera was still rolling. She stood up, humming "Let It Goo" from Frozen, grabbed a towel, and casually walked into her bathroom just 3 meters away from her laptop. The entire class was still there. One kid asked, "Wait, is this bonus class?" Another yelled, "Guys, the teacher is showering on Zoom." Miss Mary, now completely relaxed, started a full skincare routine loofah, shampoo, conditioner, even face mask. Meanwhile, the Zoom chat exploded. "Is that strawberry shampoo? I thought this was math class." One child called for backup. "Mom, my teacher's in the shower on television." Finally, a panicked parent called Miss Mary. She glanced at her phone with wet hands, froze in the shower, and shrieked, "Oh no, I'm still live?" She sprinted out of the bathroom, half-drenched, wrapped in a towel, yanked the laptop cord like she was defusing a bomb. The next day, the school issued a very serious new rule. All staff must double-check Zoom is off before engaging in personal hygiene. And the kids? They started calling her Miss Bubble. And one little boy wrote in his homework, "I like Miss Mary because she's the cleanest teacher ever." In a small Thai village in 2018, a man, let's call him Uncle Sumchai, walked into a local police station holding a photo and a slice of banana cake. The officer asked, "Sir, what are you here to report?" With a straight face, Sumchai said, "I lost my pet elephant." The entire station thought he was joking. He wasn't. He explained, "Her name is Nongdu. I've raised her since she was small. She sleeps in my yard and eats bananas with me. I left the gate open last night, and she's gone." So yes, the police had to file a missing elephant report. The description? 1.4 meters tall. Gray skin, very friendly. Loves bananas, watermelons, and ear scratches. Walks around aimlessly when sad. They issued an alert over village loudspeakers. Some neighbors reported seeing a polite elephant wandering past, sniffing banana trees but not destroying anything. 3 days later, Nongdu was found chilling under a mango tree, enjoying the rain, looking completely relaxed. The headline made it to local news. Wanted, a very polite elephant who hates fences and loves freedom. Happy ending. Elephant returns home. Somchai? He installed a GPS tracker on her tail and now locks the gate at 6 p.m. sharp.
Welcome to the world of medieval medicine, where the cure was sometimes more terrifying than the disease itself. Today, we will explore 6 bizarre, horrifying. Once upon a time, during the dark ages of the bubonic plague, when people were dropping like flies, a remarkably brave gang of 4 thieves appeared. They brazenly broke into the homes of plague victims, looting their possessions without ever contracting the disease. The whole city was in an uproar, and when the gang was finally caught, the judges were incredibly curious about their secret to survival. They offered a deal. If the thieves revealed their secret remedy, their sentences would be reduced. And so, the fragrant secret was spilled. It was a concoction they called the Four Thieves Vinegar. The recipe sounded unusual. Vinegar, garlic, wormwood, along with other herbs and spices. The thieves claimed they applied this miraculous vinegar all over their bodies before each business venture. It's almost as if they were preparing for a plague-ridden aristocrats' party, not a robbery. The humorous and somewhat surprising part is that this vinegar actually had some effect. Not that it cured the plague, mind you, but thanks to wormwood, a natural insect repellent, it helped ward off fleas, and the bubonic plague was primarily spread by fleas. So, thanks to the irresistible scent of vinegar and wormwood, these thieves inadvertently created a natural shield. Who knew vinegar could be a lifesaver? However, don't celebrate too quickly. Against pneumonic plague, which spread directly from person to person with a 100% mortality rate, this vinegar was utterly useless. So, technically, these thieves were lucky they only encountered the bubonic form, or perhaps even luckier they were caught before they ran into the pneumonic variant. Thus, the Four Thieves Vinegar, from a criminal trade secret, became a widely sold plague preventative.
Garlic. In 1349, Sir Reginald the Reekie was famous for two things: his loyalty to the crown and his unbearable smell. When the Black Death arrived in his village, Reginald decided he would not become just another sniffly statistic. No, he would fight this plague like a knight-armed, not with a sword, but with garlic. He read somewhere, possibly scratched on a pub toilet wall, that garlic repelled evil spirits, and to Reginald, the plague was clearly evil. So he made himself a necklace of 120 garlic bulbs, tied together with string, and wore it proudly like royal armor. For weeks, he strutted through the village like a walking seasoning rack, yelling, "Fear not, peasants, I am immune." And to be fair, people did keep their distance, but mostly because he smelled like a rotten pizza left in the sun. Even dogs ran the other way. He refused to bathe, believing cleanliness attracts demons. When offered food, he'd say, "No need, I dine on fear and garlic." Eventually, the plague didn't get him, but dehydration and stink-induced dizziness did. He collapsed in the town square face first into a cabbage cart. The garlic necklace didn't cure anything, but it did become a legend for being the only thing to repel both rats and women equally well. Mercury. In the chaotic years of the Black Plague, when doctors prescribed everything from roasted frogs to prayers whispered into soup, the search for a miracle cure was officially off the rails. That's when someone pointed at mercurial liquid metal that looked like melted moonlight and said, "Let's drink this." Enter Lord Edwin of Eastwif, the type of man who owned 7 canes but couldn't walk straight. With more powdered wig than actual brain, Edwin fancied himself a medical innovator, mostly because he read 2 scrolls and owned a magnifying glass. When he heard that mercury could purge impurities, he didn't ask questions. He didn't even blink. He simply yelled for his alchemist, kicked over a chair for dramatic effect, and demanded the biggest vial of mercury in stock, preferably one that shimmered in candlelight. He chugged it like it was goblet-aged wine, swirled it first, of course he had taste. For the first 10 seconds, he stood victorious, arms wide, probably composing a speech in his head titled, "How I Cured Myself and Looked Fabulous Doing It." Then ensued a full noble collapse, the kind that knocks over a vase and startles a goat 3 rooms away. His physicians rushed in, one shouting, "Ah yes, the treatment is progressing." Another just nodded while scribbling nothing onto a scroll. As Edwin lay still, his skin took on a lovely silver sheen. If nothing else, he now matched the cutlery. Days later, his servant discovered a to-do list next to his bed. Item number 4. Survive. Item number 5. Start nationwide mercury clinic. Neither happened. Bathing in beer. Long ago, when modern spas were still a futuristic concept, a unique therapeutic method emerged: bathing in beer. It was most famously popular in Central Europe, regions that already considered beer their national drink. Now it was elevated to a miracle cure as well. People believed that soaking in beer, particularly unfiltered, live beer, would bring countless health benefits. They claimed that the yeast and B vitamins in beer would help soften skin, make hair shiny, and even heal skin conditions. And that carbon dioxide and beer foam would improve blood circulation, relax muscles, and relieve stress. Just imagine a gentleman or lady soaking in a tub full of warm beer, relaxing and telling themselves, "I'm curing myself, this isn't wasting beer at all." Beer spas began popping up like mushrooms, offering all-inclusive beer bathing services. Customers would soak in large wooden tubs filled with warm beer, and of course, a fresh glass of beer was provided for internal bathing as well. The air there must have constantly smelled of malt and hops. However, despite its appealing and delicious facade, was this therapy truly effective? Modern science suggests that some vitamins and minerals in beer might have minor benefits for the skin, but absorption through the skin is minimal. Most perceived benefits likely stemmed from relaxation and the sheer novelty of being submerged in your favorite beverage. Thus, beer bathing became a fascinating and humorous part of the history of unique beauty and wellness practices. In the 19th century, when medicine was still rudimentary, an incredibly unique beauty and healing trend emerged: wearing a leech necklace. This was actually a fashionable statement among European aristocrats and the upper class. The theory behind this trend was quite simple. Leeches were believed to have the ability to suck out bad blood from the body. And if bad blood caused all ailments and an unattractive appearance, then simply wearing leeches around your neck would make you beautiful and healthy instantly. Just imagine a sophisticated lady in her silk gown with a string of squirming leeches dangling around her neck, occasionally replaced with fresh ones. What an incredibly unique and unbelievable sight. Not only for skin beauty, the leech necklace was also advertised as being able to cure all sorts of ailments, from headaches to nervous disorders. People believed that the leeches continuously drawing small amounts of blood would purify the body. In reality, the greatest effect they probably felt was the shiver every time a leech wiggled, making them forget their pain. Of course, what were the consequences? Besides looking impressive in a horrifying way, continuously wearing leeches could lead to infections, minor blood loss, and certainly didn't cure any actual diseases. Fortunately, with the development of modern medicine, bizarre cures like the leech necklace gradually disappeared. Thus, the leech necklace became a humorous but also chilling tale of an era where gullibility and the desire for beauty led people to truly one-of-a-kind decisions. During the grim period when the Black Death swept across Europe and medicine was still at a loss, a bizarre method emerged: sitting on a rock to absorb the plague. Yes, you heard that right, just a regular rock. No medical degree required for this doctor. The theory behind this innovation was quite abstract. People believed that large, cold rocks had the ability to draw out the heat and poison of the plague from the patient's body. Surely, the immediate cooling sensation would make them think the illness was truly being sucked out, and they probably secretly thanked their rock doctor for not charging a fee. So, large rocks suddenly became outdoor field hospitals. People flocked to them, jostling for a spot to rock-sit their way to health. The sight of sick individuals sitting motionlessly on rocks surely makes us chuckle at the endearing and tragic gullibility of our ancestors. The rock just lay there, uncomplaining, uncharging, truly the most dedicated physician in history. Of course, modern science has proven that sitting on a rock has absolutely no effect on curing the plague. The only real benefit might have been a temporary cooling for feverish patients, and potentially spreading the disease faster if everyone huddled around the same rock. Thus, sitting on a rock to cure the plague became a prime example of human desperation and the wild imagination that takes hold when faced with dangers they couldn't understand or control. While medically ineffective, At least it gives us a humorous story to tell about the unbelievable medical innovations of the past. Forget serial killers, these animals turned manhunting into a career. Once upon a very real time in Nepal, there lived a monster. Not a ghost. Not a demon. Nope, it was a tigress with a toothache. Yes, a bad tooth. And because of that, 436 people died. It started when a hunter almost shot her, but only wounded her mouth. Unable to hunt normal prey anymore, she switched menus. To humans. Soft, slow, and apparently delicious. At first, she picked off lone travelers in the jungle. Then she got bolder, started grabbing people from markets, schools, even doorways. Villagers woke up each morning doing, "Who's missing today?" roll calls. They called her the Striped Ghost because she hunted in broad daylight, silently, and vanished into the trees with victims before anyone could scream. Nepal couldn't stop her. So what did they do? They gave up and chased her across the border into India. Yes, the tiger got deported. In India, she continued her people-snacking habits, reaching over 400 kills, and that's when Jim Corbett stepped in hunter, legend, possibly part tiger himself. He tracked her for days, crawled through bushes, dodged her ambushes, and finally shot her in a narrow mountain pass. One bullet, one legend. The man ended the reign of history's deadliest man-eater. In 1898, the British Empire was building a railroad across Kenya. Everything was going smoothly until two very hungry lions showed up and said, This construction site looks delicious." These lions weren't ordinary. They had no manes, looked like ghosts in the night, and apparently thought humans were the tastiest meal on the savannah. At first, the workers thought people were just wandering off. Then, night after night, someone disappeared. Sleeping in tents? Not safe. Up on trees? Useless. One night, a lion dragged an entire mattress and the guy on it right out of the tent without waking anyone. Stealth rating, solid lion 100. Panic spread. Some thought they were ghost lions. Others believed it was a curse. One worker just packed up and said, "Nope, I'm out." Things got so bad that the entire railway project stopped, not because of war or politics, but because two cats were hangry. Eventually, Engineer Lieutenant John Patterson took matters into his own hands. He camped, hunted, and after several sleepless nights, shot both lions. Not before they allegedly killed between 30 to 135 people. The lions were later stuffed and put on display at the Field Museum in Chicago. To this day, they sit there mouths wide open, reminding everyone that even history's deadliest predators sometimes just hate railroads. In Burundi, near the mysterious Lake Tanganyika, a place with beautiful sunsets and zero Wi-Fi lived, a crocodile so massive, villagers call him the water demon. His name? Gustav. He's not your average croc. Over 20 feet long, weighs a ton, and has battle scars like he fought 3 hippos and walked away bored. Locals say, he doesn't swim. He glides, like a submarine with attitude. But here's the kicker. Gustav is picky. He doesn't eat fish, doesn't care for birds. One time, someone threw meat in the water Gustav surfaced, splashed it away, and disappeared like he was offended. He's blamed for over 200 human deaths, and weirdly, he seems to have preferences. Targets people in red shirts. Avoids those who sing. Never attacks tourists with cameras. He's brand conscious, clearly. A film crew once tried to trap him. They built a giant steel cage, added night vision cameras, and used a fat goat as bait. Night falls, Gustav arrives. Looks at the goat. Looks at the camera. and walks away. This is low-budget bait. I eat people. Respect my taste. To this day, no one has ever captured him. No one has clear footage, no selfies, nothing. He's either dead or he's watching. Some fishermen still whisper. I saw glowing yellow eyes, and then the water went still. So remember, Gustav, not just a crocodile, a legend, a lifestyle, a nightmare in HD. In early 1900s India, something terrifying prowled the forests of Kumaon. It didn't roar. It didn't growl. But if you heard the faintest rustle in the grass at night, too late. You were already dinner. Meet the Panner leopard, one of the deadliest man-eaters in history, with a kill count of over 400 humans. And the craziest part? It wasn't evil, it was just practical. You see, this leopard got injured by a clumsy human hunter. With a bullet wound and bad leg, chasing deer and goats became hard work. So it decided, you know what's easier than chasing deer? Humans. They walk slow and taste like chicken. But this wasn't a brute force killer. No, this leopard was a stealth ninja. It stalked villagers for days, snuck into huts at night, dragged people away without a sound, sometimes without leaving blood or footprints. Villagers were terrified. Some refused to walk alone. Others slept in baskets tied to trees. Even local officials were like, yeah, no thanks. Enter Jim Corbett, legendary hunter/leopard therapist. He tracked the beast for weeks, sleeping in the jungle, sipping tea with lizards, and pretending to be bait. One night he saw it. Glowing eyes, quiet breath, like death itself sniffing the air. One shot. Silence. Victory. The leopard was dead. Jim was a hero. And villagers could finally sleep in their beds, or at least not in tree baskets. Moral of the story? Don't injure a leopard and leave it alive. It will switch species out of spite. Hokkaido, Japan, winter of 1915. Snow was falling, the wind was freezing, and the people of Sankabetsu village just wanted to stay under the blanket. But their biggest winter problem wasn't the flu. It was a massive, fur-covered, refrigerator-sized bear that had decided, forget berries, I'm hungry for something, meatier. At first, the bear just lurked at the edge of the forest, sniffing around like a food critic. But on the 9th of December, it made its move, smashing into a small house where only a mother and her baby were home. Yes. The bear kicked down the door like it was auditioning for a martial arts movie, and what followed was a dinner scene straight out of a horror film. The villagers panicked. A hunting team was formed, but the bear returned the next day and attacked another family while the hunters were eating lunch. Because, hey, everyone needs to eat, even giant murder bears. The bear kept coming back, as if it was playing bear roulette with the neighborhood. Every visit, new house, new victims, new panic. Eventually, the town brought in a legendary hunter named Yamamoto, armed with a rifle, silver bullets, and a deep hatred for anything that ruined his afternoon drinking. After days of tracking, he shot and killed the bear on the 14th of December. The final toll: 7 people dead, a village traumatized, and one extremely fat bear no longer hungry. The bear was nearly 3 meters tall and weighed over 350 kilograms. The villagers were so shaken, they built a shrine to pray the bear never reincarnates. It was 1945, near the end of World War II. The British were advancing across Southeast Asia, and one of their strategic targets was Ramri Island, Myanmar. Japanese troops were holding the island, but eventually got cornered. With the British pressing in from all sides, they made a desperate move. They tried to escape through Ramri Swamp. Big mistake. Let's talk about this swamp. Ramre Swamp wasn't your average puddle. This was a massive, mosquito-infested, mud-drenched nightmare filled with deep water, sticky mud, and zero visibility, poisonous snakes and deadly bacteria, and of course, hundreds of giant saltwater crocodiles, each the size of a small car and hungry like it's Black Friday. Then came the night. About 1,000 Japanese soldiers entered the swamp. At first, splash, splash, bug buzz, minor swearing. But soon after, screams, gunshots, silence. And then, snap! Not your usual snack sound. British troops nearby reported hearing horrifying screams and bizarre thrashing in the distance. They couldn't do anything but listen as nature did what it does best: clean up the battlefield in the most brutal way possible. By sunrise, only around 20 soldiers came out. They were half drowned, covered in mud, and looked like they'd seen prehistoric horror. The legacy? A record-breaking nightmare. Guinness World Records officially logged it as the deadliest animal attack on humans ever, though modern historians debate the number. Still, all agree. If you're cornered in a war, and the only way out is through a swamp full of dinosaur-level predators, it's okay to just surrender. And to this day, Ramri is no longer just an island. It's the perfect metaphor for a decision that sounded smart but ended with something eating your legs. India, 1910s. In the sacred hills of Rudraprayag, where pilgrims came to pray for peace and blessings, something else was praying too. A man-eating leopard. But this wasn't just any leopard. It didn't roar. It didn't chase. It just sneaked in at night, dragged people out of their homes, and vanished. Locals called it the ghost that climbs roofs. With over 125 confirmed victims, it became a national terror. Why would a leopard eat people? Historians believe it was injured by a trap or gunshot, making it too slow to hunt wild animals. And like any lazy predator, it discovered that humans are slower, softer, and way easier to catch during nap time. The villagers panicked. People slept on rooftops. They lit bonfires every night like it was a camping trip in a horror movie. Doors were locked, then barricaded, then double-locked. Still, the leopard came. Who stopped it? The legend. Jim Corbett, hunter of man-eaters, friend of forests. Armed with patience, a rifle, and probably instant noodles, he tracked the beast for over a year. Finally, in 1926, Corbett shot the leopard with a single bullet. The nightmare ended. Locals cheered. The leopard? Stuffed and placed in a museum where it now silently judges tourists. The moral of the story: the deadliest killers are often the quietest. And if you're ever sleeping near the Himalayas, close your windows. You never know who's watching. Hello, everyone. Today we will talk about the most painful venoms in the world. The bullet ant. Welcome to the world of tiny but mighty creatures, where one ant species holds an incredibly powerful martial arts secret: the bullet ant, Paraponera clavata. This large ant, found in the Amazon rainforest, is famous not just for its size, but also for its secret weapon, ponerotoxin, a neurotoxin that can make you forget all your worries because you'll be too busy hurting. Just imagine this. You're casually strolling through the jungle when suddenly you feel a tiny prick, like a pinprick. Ah, probably just a mosquito, you think to yourself. But no. Seconds later, that tiny prick erupts into an excruciating, burning pain, as if someone just poured a glass of molten lava into your veins. Then the pain transitions into severe muscle cramps, your muscles twitching uncontrollably, as if you're participating in an intense, unregistered workout session. Many victims describe the pain of ponerotoxin as being nailed to the foot or constantly electrocuted. Some even humorously claim it feels like playing the piano with your big toe on a hot grill. And the best part? This pain isn't fleeting. It can last for 12 to 24 continuous hours. You might endure a long, restless night, your body writhing in the dance of the venom. Perhaps this is nature's way of reminding us, don't mess with things that aren't yours, especially when they're nicknamed bullet. While not directly fatal, this venom will certainly teach you a painful and unforgettable lesson about respecting the wild. And perhaps, after that experience, every other pain in your life will seem insignificant. Stonefish. I will take you down to the bottom of the sea, where vibrant coral reefs abound, and a fish that looks exactly like a grungy rock is lying in wait for you to step into your destiny.
Wow!
This is the stonefish, Sinancia spp, the most venomous fish in the world and such a brilliant artist of disguise. Stonefish are masters of stealth. They lie perfectly still on the seabed, camouflaged flawlessly as a rock or a piece of coral. They don't bother with flashy swimming or aggressive hunting. Their sole objective is to patiently wait for some unlucky soul to accidentally step on them, and that's when the pain party truly begins. When a creature steps on a stonefish, it doesn't bite. Instead, it possesses a row of 13 sharp, venomous spines hidden along its back. The pressure from the step causes these spines to erect and inject a potent dose of extremely powerful venom into the victim. The pain is described as horrific, unbearable, as if someone just poured hot acid into the wound and then repeatedly hit it with a sledgehammer. The pain is so intense, you'll just want to faint to make it stop. Stonefish venom contains neurotoxins and cytotoxins that can cause severe swelling, tissue necrosis, fever, convulsions, and in rare cases, even death. So, next time you go snorkeling or stroll along the beach, remember to look very carefully. The Brazilian wandering spider. Let's rewind to the steamy rainforests of Brazil. It's hot, it's humid, and deep in the banana plantations, something lurks. Not a jaguar, not a snake. Worse, a spider. Not just any spider, the Brazilian wandering spider, also known as Phoeneutria nigriventer. The name Phoeneutria literally means murderous in Greek. Comforting, right? This spider doesn't build a web like a polite houseguest.
No!
Nope, it wanders. At night. In your shoes, your closet, your underwear drawer. It's basically the ninja of the spider world, except way more toxic, both emotionally and chemically. In 2007, a guy in Sao Paulo bit into a banana and found one inside. He sued the supermarket. The spider sued nobody because it was too busy planning its next horror appearance. Now, let's talk venom. It's one of the most potent neurotoxins known to man. You get bit, and boom. Intense pain, muscle spasms, sweating, trouble breathing. And if you're male, well, you get an unwanted and prolonged side effect that's been politely described in scientific journals as priapism. Here's the kicker. Scientists were so impressed by this venom's performance effects, they actually studied it for use in ED treatments. Yes, the world's most terrifying spider may someday save date night. So next time you're in Brazil and see a banana wiggling, don't scream. Just politely hand it back and walk away. In the deep rainforests of Brazil, there lives a caterpillar. It's fluffy. It's slow. It looks like a piece of dust stuck to a leaf. But this, my friend, is no plush toy. This is Lonomia obliqua, the deadliest caterpillar in the world. Let's rewind. Back in the 1980s, people in southern Brazil started arriving at hospitals with a weird problem. They were bleeding from everywhere. Nose, gums, eyes, even organs. Doctors were confused. There were no cuts, no bites, No bruises, just bleeding. Eventually, someone noticed a pattern. All the patients had been near trees, and all of them had brushed against fuzzy-looking caterpillars. Turns out, Lonomia doesn't sting. It doesn't bite. It accidentally kills you by sitting there and being soft. Its tiny bristles are loaded with anticoagulant venom, a toxin that prevents your blood from clotting. Touch it once, and your body starts turning into a leaky faucet. Today, Lonomia has caused dozens of confirmed deaths, most of them because someone leaned on a tree or hugged it. Don't do that. The most tragic part? It looks like something you'd find in a kid's sticker book. To make things even weirder, scientists now use Lonomia venom to research new medicines for strokes and blood clots. So yes, the fuzzy murderer may one day save your life. But right now, it's hiding in plain sight, looking like a sock that fell off a branch. Deep in the Australian outback, where even the flies seem dangerous, lives a snake so toxic it makes cobras look like amateurs. Meet the inland taipan, also known as the fierce snake. Though, honestly, it's more like the terrifyingly polite snake. Why? Because it's shy. It avoids people. And it's so elusive that most Australians have never seen one in the wild. Now, let's talk venom. One bite from this snake delivers the most potent venom of any land animal. How potent? Enough to kill 100 adult humans with a single dose. Or 250,000 mice, but that's less relatable. Its venom is a deadly mix of neurotoxins, procoagulants, and myotoxins. Which means your nerves stop firing, your muscles shut down, and your blood starts clotting in all the wrong places. Within 30 to 45 minutes, it's lights out, permanently. But here's the strange part. Despite being insanely lethal, the inland taipan has almost no confirmed human deaths. Why? Because it's basically a venomous monk. It lives in remote desert cracks, avoids conflict, and only strikes when extremely provoked. Scientists love it in a respectful, terrified way. Its venom is helping develop new treatments for heart attacks and strokes. So yes, this snake might one day save lives. But today, it's just sitting quietly in the desert, waiting for no one. Let me tell you about a creature that doesn't run, doesn't roar, and doesn't even care you exist, until you step too close. Meet the Gila monster, also known by his science fair name, Heloderma suspectum. Yes, even his name sounds suspicious. This chunky lizard is about half a meter long, covered in beady, bumpy scales that its colors, black and orange or pink, like a Halloween-themed sausage with legs. You won't find him running across the desert. Nope, the Gila monster spends most of his time hiding under rocks, sleeping in burrows, or chilling in cactus shade, probably dreaming of scaring the next hiker. But here's the thing. If you try to touch him, or accidentally sit on him, please don't. He won't run away. He'll bite, and he won't let go. Unlike snakes, this lizard doesn't deliver venom through fangs. Instead, he chews slowly, pumping venom through grooves in his teeth like a horror film in slow motion. You pull away, he clamps harder. You scream, he continues his meal, called your hand. The venom won't usually kill you, but it causes burning pain, swelling, dizziness, and the overwhelming sense that you've made very poor choices. It's the kind of bite that turns a nature walk into an emergency room visit. And here's the plot twist. Despite his creepy chewing habits, the Gila monster's venom was used to develop exenatide, a drug that helps treat type 2 diabetes. So yes, this grumpy, toxic sausage now helps save lives. Think you were born in the wrong generation? Trust me, it could have been much, much worse. Here are the worst times in history to be born as a human. Welcome to the year 536. If you thought 2020 was a disaster, oh no. Historians agree that 536 was the worst year to be alive in human history. Let me set the scene. You wake up one morning expecting sunlight, but the sky? Permanently gray. The sun? Gone. Not night, not quite day, just a never-ending twilight. Why? A massive volcanic eruption, possibly in Iceland, shot ash so high into the atmosphere that sunlight couldn't break through for 18 months. Yep, the Earth basically hit low brightness mode for a year and a half. And the consequences? Crops failed worldwide. Temperatures dropped 2-3 degrees Celsius globally. Famines spread like bad reviews on Yelp. Entire civilizations struggled to survive. Congratulations, you've been born into the planet's longest, gloomiest power outage. But wait, there's more. Just when the world was already down bad, in 541 AD, something new popped up. The first recorded bubonic plague. The plague of Justinian swept across the Byzantine Empire, killing up to 50 million people, nearly half the population of Europe. So if you were born in 536, here's your life plan. No sun, no crops, no food, and eventually, no neighbors. Modern scholars call it the start of the worst century to be alive. People at the time probably just called it, "What the hell is happening?" So next time you complain about a bad day, just remember, you weren't born in 536. Congratulations! You've just been born in medieval Europe in 1347. Your first breath? It's filled with incense, dead rats, and the sound of coughing from 3 blocks away. Welcome to the party, the Black Death is here. You are now one of the unluckiest humans ever born. Why? Because 1 out of every 3 people you know will be dead by next summer. Your doctor doesn't believe in germs. Instead, he thinks disease comes from bad smells and planets being moody. So his solution is to wave incense at you while slapping leeches on your tiny baby body. No antibiotics, no soap, no sewer system. Oh, and don't expect diapers. It's just rags and hay, buddy. People are dying so fast there aren't enough priests to bless them. So folks start saying, well, I guess we'll just throw the bodies in the river. Then they drink the river. Nice. If you sneeze in public, you might be accused of witchcraft. If your parents die, you get sent to a monastery. If you survive to age 5, you're a medieval superhero. But hey, silver lining. You won't have to worry about student loans or traffic. You will, however, have to worry about rats. Lots of rats. And in the year 1347, the rats always win. Have you ever thought you were born in the wrong era? No iPhones as a kid? Missed TikTok until 8th grade? Tough life. But at least you weren't born in the middle of a nuclear explosion. Back in August 1945, Japan was in its final days of World War II. People in Hiroshima and Nagasaki were thinking, maybe the war's finally ending. Well, not quite. On the 6th of August at 8:15 a.m., a little something called Little Boy dropped on Hiroshima. The temperature at ground zero? Nearly 7,000 degrees Celsius. Everything within 2 kilometers? Gone. Vaporized. And believe it or not, some women were in labor when it happened. Yes, there were babies being born during a nuclear blast. Some survived, some didn't. But those who did had to grow up with radiation in their bones, literally. They were called hibakusha survivors of the bomb. And while most babies cry when they're born, some of them, there wasn't enough air to cry. 3 days later, on the 9th of August, Fat Man hit Nagasaki. Again, more children were born inside crumbling hospitals, surrounded by flames, ash, and chaos. One mother later recalled, "I didn't know what that sound was. I just remember. I was pushing." These children grew up weak, sick, some with cancer, all because of a war they didn't even understand. So next time you complain about waking up early, your phone dying, or getting caught in the rain, remember, some people were born as the city around them exploded. Ever wondered what's the absolute worst time to be born as a male human? Let me introduce you to Germany 1914. Because if you were born then, you basically unlocked hard mode, Human History Edition. You were born just as World War I kicked off. Your dad got shipped to the trenches, your mom got food rations. You grew up with air raid sirens and bread that tasted like sadness. By the time you turned 4, Germany lost, and your family got hit with war debt and boiled potatoes for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Every night you heard your dad mutter, "The French took our soul and our sausages." Your childhood? Good luck. You lived through hyperinflation. It took a whole wheelbarrow of cash to buy a loaf of bread. You carried money in sacks and still couldn't afford dinner because prices rose while you counted. Then you turned 20? Hello, Hitler Youth. You were drafted to march, salute, and learn to blame people for everything. By 25, surprise. World War II. If you're lucky, you're carrying a rifle. If not, you're under a bombing raid. By 1945, you're nearly 30. You think, maybe now I can rest. Wrong. Germany splits. Which side are you on? If it's East Germany, congratulations, comrade. You now get no fuel, no butter, 2 television channels, and endless propaganda. If it's West Germany, here's a shovel. You'll be spending your 30s rebuilding the country, brick by brick. To recap, being born in Germany in 1914 means you survive 2 world wars, 1 economic collapse, 1 dictatorship, and a country split in half with 0 chill in between. Who needs time travel to visit hell when you can just be born in Germany 1914? You think you had a rough birth story? Try this on for size. Imagine being born in the 17th century. Not in a hospital, not in a hut, but on a slave ship crossing the Atlantic Ocean. Yeah, your first breath? Inside a pitch-black wooden hull packed with 200 chained people, no windows, and an aroma best described as death meets seawater. Lovely. Your crib? A rag tied to a beam above a bucket full of human waste. Cozy. No lullabies. No warm milk. Just screams, whip cracks, seasickness, and prayers you won't get tossed overboard for crying too loud. Because that happened. Newborns on slave ships were often considered non-profitable cargo, and if they cried too much or looked weak, they were discarded, like overripe fruit. And if you survived, well, congrats. You now belong to someone. You are not a person. You are property. A live item on a manifest priced per pound, renamed by your future owner, and possibly branded. Born on a slave ship, you don't get a birthday. You don't get a homeland. You don't get freedom. You just get a label, and a future that starts in chains. Welcome to Pompeii, land of wine, public baths, parties, and one very bad day. It's the year 79 AD. Life's pretty good. People are chilling, scribbling graffiti on the walls, baking bread, and throwing parties like it's always Friday. And right next door, a big, quiet mountain called Mount Vesuvius. Nobody's too worried about it. It's just there. Then came the 24th of August. That quiet mountain? Boom, it explodes like a shaken bottle of Coke with Mentos inside. A giant cloud shoots 30 kilometers into the air. People in Pompeii look up and go, "Huh, weird weather today." They keep cooking, drinking, living their lives. They have no idea they're about to become history. By afternoon, it starts raining ash, not cute little flakes, but waves of boiling hot death dust mixed with rocks and toxic gas. The sky turns black. People run, some hide. Some freeze, literally. Bodies were later found in mid-scream, mid-bite, mid-poop. Yes, really. About 2,000 people died. Pompeii was buried in ash for over 1,600 years, forgotten by the world. And when archaeologists dug it up, they found everything. Ovens, pots, jewelry, and even graffiti that basically said, "Great wine, hot girls, out of money." Pompeii became a time capsule, frozen in the exact moment disaster struck. So if you were born in Pompeii on the 24th of August, 79 AD, congrats, you had about 3 hours to live your best life, before becoming a very dramatic museum exhibit. Welcome to the Middle Ages, a magical time when sneezing could be fatal and medicine was basically improv comedy with blood. You had a fever? Let's drain your blood to cool you down. Headache? Too much blood in the brain. Drain some more. Swollen leg? Slap a leech on it, problem solved. Yes, bloodletting and leech therapy were top-tier medical practices, and the people who did it, they were called barber surgeons because back then, your hairdresser also did surgery. Imagine getting a haircut and hearing, "Would you like a blood draw with that, sir?" People believed the body had 4 main fluids: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. If you got sick, that meant the fluids were imbalanced. So, naturally, the answer was, bleed them out. Because logic. And leeches? These little vampires were the celebrities of medicine. Pharmacies literally kept jars of them ready to go. They believed leeches could suck the disease right out of your body. Spoiler, they mostly just sucked your blood. Even royalty weren't safe. King Charles II of England died after doctors drained 400 milliliters of blood in a few hours. They also gave him 40 different medicines, rubbed him with animal dung, and made him inhale smoke from a burning fish head. Yup, that was medicine. So, next time you have a cold and reach for Tylenol, just remember, at least no one's sticking leeches on your face. This isn't fiction. These are 7 real-life heists, so smart, so bold, most of the thieves got away clean. Think bank heists require masks, guns, lasers, and high-speed getaways? Not in Iraq in 2003. There, all you needed was a handwritten note from the president. Here's what happened. Right before the U.S. invaded Iraq, things were chaotic. The country was on edge. And Saddam Hussein, president of Iraq, decided it was the perfect time to empty the central bank. So he wrote a short letter like a grocery list and handed it to his son, Qusay Hussein. It said, "Hi, please give my son approximately $1 billion in cash. Thanks. Signed, Saddam." And yes, the bank gave it to him. No alarms, no drama. Just 3 trucks full of cash rolling out like it was payday. No ski masks, no getaway cars, no Mission Impossible music. Just vibes and presidential authority. Qusay and his crew spent a few hours loading money into trucks and drove away, completely unbothered. Police, powerless. Media, silent. Because in Saddam's Iraq, if you said no, you probably disappeared by dinner. It remains the biggest, easiest, and most legal bank robbery in modern history. No breaking in, no hiding faces, just presidential stationery. After the fall of the regime, U.S. troops found $650 million in cash hidden behind a wall in one of Saddam's palaces. As for the rest, still missing. Maybe someone's grandma is using it to prop up her television. You think Ocean's 11 is just a movie? Well, in Belgium, 2003, a group of criminals pulled off something just as crazy, but in real life. This was the Antwerp diamond heist, and the target? A vault holding over $100 million in diamonds, gold, and other shiny, insanely expensive things. Security was so tight, people joked. If a fly entered, it would get photographed 4 times and have its family background checked. And yet, someone still broke in. The mastermind? Leonardo Notarbartolo, an Italian gentleman thief with slick hair and serious patience. He spent 2 years preparing. He rented an office in the building, disguised himself as a diamond dealer, and every day studied the layout cameras, lasers, guards, even coffee breaks. Then came the job. His crew, known as the School of Turin, was made up of 4 guys, each a specialist: the lockpicker, the sensor disabler, the fake technician, and the guy who hid gear inside sandwiches. Yes, really. They bypassed 10 layers of security, including heat sensors, motion detectors, infrared lasers, dual-layer vault doors, security cameras. And how did they do it? With stuff you'd find at a hardware store: screwdrivers, magnets, hair clips, duct tape. It was like breaking into Fort Knox using IKEA tools. They emptied the vault, took over $100 million in loot, and vanished without triggering a single alarm. No cameras, no fingerprints, no noise. So how did they get caught? Well, one of them threw away a trash bag full of evidence in a forest. A local ferret, yes, a literal ferret, dragged the trash into the road. Police picked it up, and the rest is history. Notarbartolo was arrested. But the diamonds? Never recovered. The rest of the crew? Gone, like ghosts. It's still known as the perfect heist. You've heard the saying, to get rich, you have to dig deep? Well, this crew took it literally. In August 2005, in the city of Fortaleza, Brazil, a new business popped up in a quiet neighborhood. It was called Grama Sintetica, a landscaping company selling artificial grass. Looked legit. Locals saw trucks going in and out, guys hauling dirt, tools, and concrete. Very professional. Except the company was fake. Inside that house, a gang of robbers had been working for 3 months, digging a 260-foot tunnel with lighting, ventilation, and wooden walls leading directly underneath the central bank's money vault. And on a quiet weekend in August, when the bank was closed, they popped up from beneath the floor and stole 3.5 tons of cash, nearly $70 million in Brazilian reals. No alarms. No injuries. No cameras caught a thing. And the wildest part? The bank didn't realize anything was missing until Monday. The security guard walked in, saw a hole in the floor, and said, where did all the money go? This is now considered one of the biggest and cleanest bank heists in history. Some of the gang were eventually caught, but most of the money? Still missing. So, next time someone opens a turf business next to a bank, maybe ask what kind of digging they're doing. Imagine this. 2 fake cops knock on a museum door at night and walk away with $500 million in stolen art, and 30 years later, no one's been arrested. Sounds like a movie, right? Welcome to the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum heist, one of the most mysterious and successful art thefts in history. On the 18th of March, 1990, while Boston was partying hard for St. Patrick's Day, 2 men dressed as police officers knocked on the museum door. They told the night guards, "We're here about a disturbance." And believe it or not, the guards just let them in. Within seconds, the officers revealed the plot. This is a robbery. They tied the guards up with duct tape and said, "Thanks, now we'll go take some art." For the next 81 minutes, the thieves roamed freely through the museum, calmly slicing paintings out of their frames, and possibly taking a coffee break while they were at it. They stole 13 masterpieces, including works by Rembrandt, Vermeer, and Degas valued at over $500 million. No alarms, no fingerprints, no security footage, and to this day, not a single arrest. The paintings are still missing. The thieves vanished. And the museum? They've left the empty frames hanging, as if waiting for the art to return. There's a $10 million reward for any info. So remember, sometimes the best heist doesn't need gadgets or gunfights, just confidence, costumes, and really good timing. What if I told you someone hijacked a plane, took the ransom, and literally jumped out midair, never to be seen again? Welcome to the legend of D.B. Cooper, the man who made history and then disappeared from it. It was the 24th of November, 1971. A calm, well-dressed man, wearing a suit and sunglasses, bought a one-way ticket under the name Dan Cooper on Northwest Airlines Flight 305 from Portland to Seattle. He looked like a businessman, nothing unusual. He took his seat, ordered a bourbon and soda like a gentleman, and handed a note to the flight attendant. She thought it was his phone number, so she didn't read it. Cooper leaned in and whispered, "Ma'am, you might want to read that. I have a bomb." "Oh, okay then." He opened his briefcase just enough to show wires and red sticks, classic movie villain style, and calmly gave his demands. $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, and a fuel truck waiting on the tarmac. Authorities just went with it. The plane landed in Seattle, ransom delivered, passengers released, and Cooper told the crew to fly again, this time toward Mexico, slow and low. Then, about 20 minutes into the flight, Cooper opened the back stairs and jumped out of the plane, with the money, into the night, during a storm, over a forest. No one ever saw him again. FBI launched one of the biggest investigations in U.S. history. Nothing. They found some of the cash buried by a river, but not Cooper. Dead or alive, no one knows. But one thing's for sure. D.B. Cooper didn't just hijack a plane, he hijacked history. You think the biggest heists in the world take minutes? Hours? Welcome to Nigeria, where people have been stealing oil for decades, and nobody's stopped them. This is the longest-running robbery of the 21st century, and nope, it's not a joke. Let's rewind. Nigeria is one of Africa's top oil producers. Every day, millions of barrels flow through pipelines, stretched across jungles, swamps, and sometimes people's backyards. Then someone had a genius thought. Why not poke a little hole in the pipe and help ourselves? Pipeline tapping became a side hustle. It started small, just a leak here, a bucket there. Then came the tools: hoses, mini pumps, homemade refineries, even switch-on, switch-off valves like it's a gas station. Oil was stolen right from the source, hauled out by trucks, sold on the black market, or swapped for political favors. Farmers? Fishermen? Nope. Welcome to oil villagers. In some areas, tapping oil is a family tradition. Fathers pass it on like folklore. Son, remember the pipe near the third palm tree has the best pressure. Does the government know? Of course. The oil companies know. The locals know. But everyone's tangled in the mess, and nobody dares shut it down. In 2022 alone, Nigeria lost nearly $600 million to oil theft in just 1 year. And the best part? No guns, no ski masks, no getaway cars. Just a pipe, a barrel, and a smile when someone asks, "Hey, what are you doing?" "Oh, just watering the crops." The smoothest, longest, and slickest heist in history is still happening. Have you ever heard of a thief who stole over $600 million and then gave it all back with a moral lesson attached? Let me introduce you to the wildest crypto heist in history. Poly Network, 2021. Poly Network is a decentralized finance platform, or DeFi, that lets people swap, send, and play with crypto across multiple blockchains. Lots of money, lots of smart contracts, and apparently, one giant security flaw. In August 2021, a mysterious hacker identity unknown discovered a loophole. With just a few clever lines of code, he could move funds straight into his own wallet. And he did. Boom. Within minutes, he drained over $610 million. Ethereum, Binance, Coin, USDC, you name it. Crypto Twitter exploded. Poly Network begged, "Dear hacker, please return the funds. Pretty please. We promise we won't call the cops." And then something insane happened. He started giving it back. Bit by bit, token by token, the hacker slowly returned all the money. People were confused. Was he scared? Did he feel guilty? Was he just really, really bored? Then came a message from the man himself, signed as Mr. Whitehat. "I just wanted to teach you a lesson. If I could find this bug, someone worse could too. Fix it." Oh, and the punchline? Poly Network offered him a job as their head of security. No arrests, no jail time, and a $500,000 bounty as a thank you tip. So yes, the greatest crypto heist ever was also the nicest. Hello everyone. Today let's listen to me about the 7 notorious pirates. So there was this guy, Blackbeard, right? Picture this. About 6'5" of grumpy pirate, with a beard so epic it had its own fan club, mostly terrified sailors. He'd even braid it. And his fashion sense? Strictly long black coat chic, accessorized with more pointy things, daggers, pistols, than a porcupine convention. Now, this dude wanted to look extra scary. His pro tip? Light those slow-burning fuses in his beard and hat? Imagine trying to have a serious negotiation when the other guy looks like a walking firework. No wonder people handed over their loot so quickly. His career in maritime acquisitions, aka stealing, kicked off in the spring of 1716 with his 70-ish mates. They went on a little shopping spree, liberating 8 merchant ships along the American East Coast. Talk about a hostile takeover. Then came his prized possession, a French ship called La Concorde. Blackbeard, ever the redecorator, renamed it the Queen Anne's Revenge and slapped 40 cannons on it. Because when you're redecorating, you might as well go big, right? He even pulled off this hilarious, for him, not so much for the locals, stunt in Charleston. Blocked the harbor with 4 ships, then just casually robbed 9 more over a few days, including one with Charleston's VIPs. Held them ransom. You got to admire the audacity. But alas, even the most dramatically bearded pirates have their off days. The governor of Virginia sent the Navy after him. Cue the slapstick sword fight on the 22nd of November, 1718. Blackbeard fought like a honey badger in a blender, but eventually, 25 stabs and 5 bullet holes later, it was curtains. They chopped off his head, bit harsh really, and hung it on their ship. Body overboard. Talk about a bad hair day, permanently. Despite his short but explosive career, Blackbeard managed to rearrange the finances of over 40 ships. Not bad for a guy with a perpetually smoky beard. Meet Ned Lowe, who basically won the Most Likely to Give You Nightmares award in pirate history. This guy wasn't just a bad egg, he was the whole rotten omelet. His origin story? Pretty humble, actually. Started as a petty thief in London, then tried his hand at carpentry in Boston. Apparently, hammering nails just wasn't cutting it for Ned after his wife passed. So, naturally, the next logical career move was piracy in 1722. You know, for a change of pace. Now, when it came to customer service, Ned's motto was less "have a nice day" and more "prepare to lose an ear." He and his crew were famous for their extreme enthusiasm in dealing with victims. Torture, dismemberment, the usual pirate party tricks. Word has it, Ned enjoyed giving captains impromptu ear, nose, and lip reductions. And, for the grand finale, tying a captain to the mast for a little target practice with a cannon. Charming, right? His piratical adventure only lasted about 2 years, but in that short time, Ned and his buddies managed to borrow, permanently, over 100 ships. He mostly hung out in the Atlantic, targeting ships off the American coast and the Caribbean. Think of it as a very aggressive form of sightseeing. His ride of choice? A speedy sloop called the Fancy, pimped out with 10 cannons. Because when you're in the acquire business, speed and a little firepower really help with negotiations. The grand mystery of Ned's fate? Well, it's a bit of a choose-your-own-adventure. Some say his own crew had enough of his charm and marooned him. Others whisper that the French caught him and gave him a lovely necktie party in Martinique. Spoiler alert, the necktie was a noose. So yeah, Ned Lowe. Not exactly the life of the pirate party, more like the guy who showed up and made everyone else feel awkward. His reputation for being utterly terrifying, totally earned. So, picture this. Henry Every, also known as Long Ben, because, pirates love nicknames, started his career on the high seas with the Royal Navy. Fancy, right? Then he dabbled in the slave trade. But hey, everyone needs a job, right? Things got interesting when he and his crew realized they weren't getting paid. Talk about a bad day at the office. So, naturally, they decided to take matters into their own hands by becoming pirates, because that's a totally reasonable career change. In September 1695, Every led a group of over 440 guys, talk about a crowded ship, in a raid against the Gonisaway. The result? A loot worth about $143 million in today's money. Not bad for a day's work. You could say they hit the jackpot. After that, Every and his crew decided to play hide-and-seek with the entire world. They split up to avoid getting caught, leading to a worldwide manhunt. But guess what? Every was like a ninja. No one could find him. Rumors popped up everywhere. Maybe he was in Ireland, maybe Brazil. The guy was a legend. We still don't know what happened to him. Maybe he retired on a tropical island, sipping cocktails and counting his millions. Maybe he opened a pirate-themed amusement park. The possibilities are endless. Charles Vane. Picture a pirate with a serious case of the Mondays every day. This guy was known for his explosive temper and a shoot-first, ask-never policy. Basically, if you looked at him funny, you might end up swimming with the fishes. His pirate debut happened in 1718 in the Caribbean. He quickly made a name for himself by being super bold and super, stabby. Think of him as the grumpy old man of the pirate world, but with more cannons. Captain Vane helmed a few ships, including a snazzy sloop called the Ranger. For those quick getaways after a bit of reappropriation. Now, there was this one time he had a little disagreement with Governor Woodes Rogers in Nassau. Rogers, bless his heart, came to spoil the pirate party. But Vane? He just lit a captured French ship on fire and sailed it right at Rogers' fleet. Talk about a dramatic exit. He basically moonwalked out of there in a giant fireball. Smooth. Later on, his own crew decided he wasn't piratey enough. Apparently, even pirates have standards. And, under the influence of one Calico Jack Rackham, they staged a mutiny. Ouch. Talk about getting voted off the island. Or ship, in this case. The grand finale for our fiery friend? He got shipwrecked on a deserted island in 1720. Irony? Much? Eventually they found him, dragged him to Spanish Town, Jamaica, and gave him a lovely necktie party courtesy of the hangman. So much for the swashbuckling life. Despite his relatively short career, Charles Vane proved that being consistently angry and blowing things up can definitely leave a lasting and slightly singed impression. So, there was this guy, Steve Bonnet, also known as the Gentleman Pirate. I mean, how many pirates do you know who started out as a wealthy landowner? Talk about a career change. Apparently, Steve was going through a bit of a midlife crisis. He decided that what his life really needed was more piracy. He bought a ship, hired a crew, and set sail. Because when you're bored with the mundane, nothing spices things up like plundering and pillaging. Now, here's the funny part. Steve knew absolutely nothing about sailing, like zero. Imagine trying to rob a bank when you don't know how to drive the getaway car. It was a recipe for disaster, and a lot of confused looks from other pirates. He teamed up with Blackbeard for a while, which must have been an interesting dynamic. The sophisticated gentleman and the terrifying beard monster. Talk about an odd couple. Unfortunately, Steve's piratical adventure didn't last long. He got caught, and they gave him a good old-fashioned hanging. So much for the gentlemanly life of crime. All right, let's talk about Black Bart, or Bartholomew Roberts, for those of you who like using his full name. He probably didn't. This guy was like the rock star of pirates. I mean, over 400 ships? That's more than some small navies. His career in maritime borrowing started when he was, shall we say, convinced to join a pirate crew. You know, that friendly peer pressure thing. Turns out he was pretty good at the whole swashbuckling thing. Black Bart was known for his strict rules. No gambling, because pirates are obviously responsible with their loot. No fighting amongst the crew, save it for the folks they were robbing. And even mandatory church services on Sundays. Talk about a well-organized bunch of lawbreakers. He also had a flair for the dramatic. Apparently, he went into battle wearing fancy red coats. Because if you're going to steal someone's gold, you might as well do it in style. Despite his success, Black Bart's career ended rather abruptly when a Royal Navy ship caught up to him. He reportedly died in the middle of a fight. So much for a glamorous exit. Ah, Captain Kidd. Now, this guy's story is a bit of a wait, that's it kind of tale. He started out as a privateer. You know, one of the good guys, sort of, hired to hunt pirates. Then, things got a little blurry. Apparently, Captain Kidd wasn't exactly a natural at the whole piracy thing. He was more of a bumbling his way through the high seas kind of pirate. The video mentions he was known for being foolish and treating his crew badly. Not exactly the recipe for a successful villain, is it? There's this one part where he apparently slapped his own cheek at a Navy yacht. You can just picture it. A moment of pure, unadulterated, oops, did I do that? On the high seas. Despite not being the most competent of pirates, Captain Kidd ended up getting the full pirate treatment. He was hanged for piracy and murder. Talk about a harsh review of your career choices. So, yeah, Captain Kidd. More of a cautionary tale about how not to do piracy, really. Today, we're going to open our eyes to a list of the 10 most unique punishments in history. Ah, the oubliette. The place where you'll wish you were never born. Just imagine, you're thrown into a tiny, pitch-black room, forgotten by the entire world. No windows, no light, just you and the darkness. And usually, you won't be alone, because you'll have some rat friends or other deceased friends to share this cozy space with. Sounds like a fantastic vacation, right? Often, this cell will contain corpses or rats, making your experience even more enjoyable. You will be left there to die, perhaps from hunger, disease, or simply boredom to death. Sounds like a fantastic vacation, right? Welcome to the Scaphism Boat Hotel. You'll get to sunbathe in a hollowed-out boat generously slathered with delicious honey to attract your insect buddies, of course. Then you'll be dressed with another boat placed on top, leaving only your adorable face exposed. The real party starts when the insects and larvae arrive to slowly savor you. Don't worry, you'll have plenty of time to ponder your wise life choices while waiting for the lavish meal for those uninvited guests. Sounds relaxing, doesn't it? Welcome to the medieval VIP skybox. If you're a notorious criminal, you'll get a golden opportunity to become the town's star, displayed in a custom-designed metal cage. Yes, you'll be suspended high above, allowing all the townsfolk to admire you from every angle. No admission fee, no waiting in line, just a sufficiently grand crime is all you need to enjoy this million-dollar view. Don't worry about getting bored, as you'll have plenty of time to ponder your life, and perhaps make friends with a few birds or other uninvited guests. A truly memorable experience for both you and the audience. Welcome to the classic body-warming therapy. If you're feeling a bit chilly or simply want a close encounter with the wild side, then rat torture, or the rat bowl and tube as you call it, is the perfect choice. Imagine a bowl or a tube is placed over your body, and inside are our tiny but enthusiastic rat friends. Their mission? Simply to create a love tunnel right through your body to find their way out. Sounds warm and exciting, doesn't it? Guaranteed you'll never feel alone again. So you accidentally harmed a family member? Well, don't worry. Ancient Rome has a truly unique community reintegration program just for you called Poena Coelium. You'll get to embark on a special hiking trip, but instead of a backpack, you'll be packaged neatly into a leather sack. And to make the journey even more lively, you'll have some extremely friendly travel companions. A constantly barking dog, a crowing rooster, a mischievous monkey, and a snake. Well, the snake is a bit quiet. Afterward, the whole group will enjoy a surprisingly sudden diving excursion. Guaranteed, you'll never forget this outing. Have you ever dreamed of soaring high and seeing the world from a completely new perspective? With impalement, that dream comes true. This isn't just a punishment. It's a unique pilot training program where you'll be launched onto a custom-designed wooden stake to reach an impressive altitude. You'll have plenty of time to enjoy the scenery, ponder your life, and perhaps even get to know some passing birds. A truly elevating experience in every sense of the word, and surely a story you'll tell, if you still can, to your grandchildren. Looking for an instant diet plan or an extremely powerful detox therapy? Try Crushed by Elephants, our one-and-done weight loss program. You'll be invited to an outdoor performance art installation with a friendly but heavy-footed elephant as the main artist. The elephant will gently stomp on your body, helping you shed all unnecessary baggage. Don't worry about hitting the gym or strict diets anymore, because after this session, you'll feel lighter than ever. A worthwhile experience for those seeking a radical transformation. Have you ever dreamed of challenging yourself with an extreme underwater sport? Come join our Undership Wakeboarding Challenge. You'll be equipped with a sturdy rope and a special board, which is your own body. Then, a ship will gently tow you through artificial coral reefs, also known as barnacles, and unexpected currents. This is a fantastic opportunity to explore the unknown depths of the sea, and perhaps even find some hidden pearls or a few new scars. a memorable experience for thrill seekers who aren't afraid of a little friction. Are you suffering from hunchback syndrome or simply want to improve your posture? Try our exclusive spinal alignment therapy, the rack. This isn't just a punishment, it's a personal gym where you'll be stretched to your absolute limit. Our professional trainers will ensure every single one of your joints gets a thorough workout, helping you achieve a new, slimmer, and more flexible physique than ever before. We guarantee you'll feel lighter and more comfortable after recovery than you ever have. Looking for a unique hotel where you can completely disconnect from the outside world and enjoy absolute tranquility? Welcome to the Rat Dungeon, our dark and damp underground resort. You'll get to enjoy a simple yet cozy room deep underground where sunlight is a luxurious concept. Don't worry about being lonely, as you'll have plenty of enthusiastic local rat friends visiting and sharing the space with you. They love to explore every nook and cranny, and perhaps even you. A memorable survival experience for those who love getting close to wild nature and don't mind a little nibbling